Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Now, as promised, I was yesterday. I was doing a video, and somebody was asking me about. Let me put on my armor. The hairline ain't where it need to be. And I was doing a video, and not a video. Oh, and I mentioned all the questions I kept getting, and I was like, I feel like Instagram has put somebody on my account to monitor my account personally, just to make sure I'm not breaking any rules, because they went way back into my account on a Q&A from a long time ago, where a lady, she posted, her question was, I hate men. And I responded to her and I said, the same thing happened to you, from women. It just humans. You just have to set your standards, or whatever I said to her. And they, flagged that and took it down, but it was old, And so I said, they got somebody going through my Q&As and stuff now. Because that just ain't going to be no bot going through that. And so what I've been noticing is when I'm doing the Q&As on Instagram, make sure you over there on my Instagram, because that's a whole nother type of situation and it's gonna bless your life. But what I'm noticing is that a lot of times the questions are in a theme. And so I seen like 3, 4, 5 questions in a row about when should he introduce me to his parents. And they were phrased differently. One person said, is it a red flag if I've been with him for 1.5 years, I think it said, and he hasn't introduced me to any friends or family? And then somebody else asked about being introduced to his daughter, but not his mom. And then somebody else asked about, when should they be introduced to his parents? And so it's a lot that goes into this. And I want you to understand it and kind of sit with me and take your time and kind of process this, because it's several different angles and it's a lot of nuances and caveats in this. So the first thing you have to do is you have to look at this man's history and his biography. Where does he come from? Who raised him? How was he raised? If you notice that this guy is from the streets, like you haven't heard much about his mom or his dad, or you have, and what you've heard is bad things. Some men have parents who are addicts. Some men have parents who abandoned them and they were raised by their grandmother or aunt, or foster home or group home. Some men just come from little of nothing. And so in those situations, you shouldn't even expect to meet his family. It should not be a prerequisite for you. You should not really care about it, because he is a loner. He's on his own. And that's one thing you have to understand. Now, another thing is, if a man comes from a solid home, but he was a wild child, he was a rebel, his parents were like his friends instead of his parents, he was raised kind of spoiled, in that case, you should not put any stock into him introducing you to his parents. They meet a woman every week. Like, those are his best buds, those are his besties, his mom and dad. They're like, big brother, big sister. He doesn't fear them. He barely respects them. So bringing a woman home, they aid in a bed. Like, they are okay with him letting a woman live there. They are okay with him sleeping with a woman. Like, when he was in high school, he could have dates in his bedroom with the girl. The parents kind of know what's going on, but they say, hey, we'd rather him be here than to be somewhere else. And he's in there doing any and everything. And so you can't put too much stock in that. Now, when the man has come from a good home, and the same goes for the man who comes from a toxic home or a bad home, and you get to meet his mom, look, if this woman has been, on drugs her whole life, he sees her as a little sister. He takes care of her. Same if it's his grandmother or what have you. So you can't put anything on that. They are used to meeting different women. They don't think anything of it. They think you just another woman you're gonna come and go. He brings you home, you get your home cooked meal, y'all laugh and talk. And what you have to realize, a lot of moms with their son is like their baby. Their son is like their king, because a lot of women get mistreated in their relationship by their man, so they marry their son. A lot of women make their son, or grandmothers make their grandson their king, make him their husband without sex. And so whatever term that is for that, but that's what they do. And so they want to, it's a lot of women that want women to be set up for the slaughter, so to speak. Like, they don't care how their son treats you. They don't care if he puts hands on you. They don't care if he spits in your face, if he uses and abuses, if he sleeps with you and go on about his business, because all they care is that he is fulfilled, that he is happy, that he has pleasure. And they will serve up women to do that. And I'm speaking from experience as a man. I'm telling you, this is what's real. Like, it's a lot of mothers who do not care about your well-being. And it's a lot of, I've had countless sessions where women say the guy's mom told her, you have to expect that with men. You got to understand, men are going to cheat. You got to understand, you getting in his face or y'all having an argument, he's going to put hands on you. That is just men. I lived with it for 30 years. Like, get over it. This is men. And so there's a lot of women who are being told what to do and told how to be treated by their man's parents. And so, and this is what I kept seeing this question last night in the Q&A over and over and over again. And I'm like, wow, like, a lot of women put a lot of stock into meeting the man's family, when really in a lot of cases it means nothing. It literally means nothing in most cases. Like, the only time that it really means something is when this man is like heir to a throne. Like, he's gonna take over a multi-million-dollar business, a multi-billion-dollar business. He's gonna take over the church. He's gonna take over the family business, even if it's $60,000 a year, but it's been around forever. He is the heir to the throne. That is when it matters, when you meet his parents. That's when it matters, because they are going to be passing this down to him, and they want to make sure that he is marrying a quality woman, and not a woman who is a gold digger, not a woman who is coming in to just get in position to take advantage of this man, use him and do him wrong, and, you know, marry him and then without a prenup and then run off with half of what he's worth, and then getting, you know, alimony or whatever for years. And so that's when the parents will care. But even then, it depends on how close they are to him. So I've seen it to where a man could be an heir to a throne, but his parents are so wealthy that they really don't have a real relationship. So they kind of just like, you know, do what you do, make your mistakes. We've been through divorce as well. So when the parents have gone through a divorce, they may not care as much about the son going through a divorce with a woman who could be a gold digger, or who could be the woman that's not for him. And so the parents just kind of, they'll stay hands off, and they feel like they got enough money for alimony. They got enough money for spousal support. They got enough money to where if at that moment the woman gets X amount of dollars, it's still gonna be, the man's gonna be worth way more after the divorce. And so it's so much that goes into this. What I need you to understand as a woman is, don't put anything on this. Like, don't put any, you know, sauce on meeting his parents, because at the end of the day, it's him marrying you. It's you and him, and it's not them. And so it really only matters what he thinks and what he feels about you. Now, where that can kind of change is if he is a mama's boy or a daddy's boy. to where his parents, when you meet them, you can tell they're kind of controlling. They're very opinionated. They overstep their boundaries, and they're treating him like he's still a teenager. Or he may be a teenager if y'all 18, 19. But they're treating him like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's too young. He's too naive. He's too gullible. And so they're still raising him even in his 20s. And so if that's the case, now you realize, okay, yeah, this may mean a little something. And that's where you look in a little bit and you pay a little closer attention. But it really has to be a very solid family for it to matter when you meet the parents. And if it's a very solid family and this young man was raised in a 2-parent household and it was healthy, productive, they did okay for themselves financially or amazing, whatever it may be, but at least okay, then that means something when you meet the parents, because those parents have a relationship with him and they have influence in his life and they can speak into his life, so it means something if they like you or not. And so as the woman, you got to make sure you're going in and you're being yourself. Like you are a window. Everybody can see in. So if you're acting and you're putting on a role, everybody can see it, even though you think they can't. So don't go in trying to be overly sweet and fake. Just be yourself. If you're an introvert, be quiet. If you're very shy, be shy. Like say hello, shake their hand, and you don't have to say another word unless it comes to you naturally. And when somebody talks to you, if you're okay answering a question, but you're not okay starting a conversation, then don't start a conversation. Just sit and be quiet. And don't try to force it. Don't try to shuck and jive and do a dance and win friends and try to build. Just be who you are. If you're a personality, if you like to have fun and you're not operating from a place of insecurity or ignorance or immaturity, then be who you are and have fun. If you're operating from the wrong place and you know that you act out and you put on a show because deep down you're insecure, then that's when you sit down and be quiet and just learn like, okay, I need to grow, instead of quote unquote being myself when it's not really yourself, because you operate from insecurity. And so if you are authentic and you are yourself, his parents will see you and they will love you the way he loves you. They will feel the same way he feels about you. And so I remember when I was dating, I had a group, like my cousin had a clothing store. And so it was a nice little ride from where I was living, going to college, to where I grew up, to my cousin's clothing store. So being it was a nice little ride, it may take an hour to an hour and a half. Whenever I started, dating a woman, I would drive her over there. And going in there, it's my cousin, it's my homeboy, so they used to seeing women. They don't care nothing about that. Hey, how you doing? And they make that woman feel like she the only woman in the world in my life. But now, when I would take somebody to meet my mama, my grandma, that's when it's getting real. If I take them to my grandma's house, that's when it's serious. So the only person I could remember taking to my grandma's house was my wife. And then of course before my wife, I was with a young lady for 2 years, and one summer she came to stay with me. So of course she seen my grandma's house and all that, but that was just because she was staying at my parents' house. And then my mom and dad was going through their situations, getting ready for a divorce, and then me and that young lady moved to my sister's house. And I remember, like, my mom and sister, they're very protective and just women. And so they really didn't like anybody. Even my wife, they didn't want anybody in my life because, I'm a very good-hearted, soft-hearted person, and they felt like women would take advantage of me. And so, but they didn't realize I also was a savage, and I did what I wanted to do, but they didn't have to date me, so they didn't know that side of me. They just knew sweetheart Tony. So they didn't want anybody in my life. And that's how family could be sometimes. And so you got to realize that. And that's why you can't put so much into meeting the family, because the family might not like you and you're a perfectly fine person, but they just don't like you because they're not ready to lose their son. They're not ready for their son to create that distance and to start his own family and build a family. And they want him to remain close knit and right up under them. And so that's where you have to realize that meeting the family really, in the grand scheme of things, does not mean anything if that man is your husband and y'all are meant to be. Because even though my mom and sister had stuff to say about every single woman, I remember I was dating a white woman when I was in high school, and I dated Mexican, black, white. I didn't discriminate, and so I just dating, just dating. And I remember one time my mom and that white young lady, she her dad told my dad that she wasn't allowed, that she couldn't date a black guy because she wouldn't get a college volleyball scholarship. She would not get a job after she graduated if the people found out she has a black boyfriend. And this was in the new millennium. This was in the 2000s, early 2000s. And that's what he told my dad. And then I remember one time she came over to my house, and my dad said she reminded me of Devil in a Blue Dress, Denzel Washington movie. I didn't know what that was about. I didn't watch the movie. And then later my mom said, and this just being real, I'm taking y'all all the way in. Everybody know this, but sometimes people on the other side, like white people, don't know this. And then white people know what their family say, but then they don't necessarily want to tell black people what their family say. But in here, we just all the way open. And my mom was like, it's not fair that white women get everything in the world and then they want our best men. Like, they don't want us as black people. They don't want our life. They don't want to be black. But when we have a good man that is a good looking man, and this my mama talking now. I'm not calling myself good looking. This my mama talking. She say that with his head on his shoulders, he doing the right thing. That's when you all of a sudden good enough for a white woman. And so they take the best of our men. That's what my mama said. So I was like, man. And then I remember I went to college. I was dealing with a white young lady, and my grandma called me. And my grandma said, baby, I heard you up there dealing with white girls. I said, well, no, Grandma, not really. I mean, I talked to a young lady, and she's a white young lady. She said, baby, do not bring that girl to my house. She said, baby, please do not be with no white girl. She said, I went through so much with them people. She said, I'm from Selma, Alabama. 1925, I was born. She said, baby, them people put us through so much. She said, please, little Tony, do not be with no white girl. And this is what my grandma said to me. And it come from her pain. It come from her struggle. So me coming up as a young man, I'm listening to the little head, not the big head. I'm just thinking about what I need in the moment. I'm in a college. That's all there was available because it was 1% black. And then I just was like, well, this what's out here. And I need me something to get in while I'm up here now, because I wasn't abstinent or nothing. I was living in a backslidden state in sin. And so I'm like, man, I need me something now. And so sure enough, I never took that young lady to my grandma's house. That young lady never went to Florida. I went to her house, and her parents was okay with me. And they was cool with me, and her parents, like, they let me and her hang out in her room, and anything could be going on, and they let that happen. And they was just the cool and nice, but she lived in like a trailer. It looked like a house, but it really was a trailer. It didn't sit on the ground. And it was in this is West Virginia, so it's 1% black in the state of West Virginia too. And she said she only had 2 black boys in her school, that she only knew 2 black boys in her lifetime, and one of them she had dated and dealt with. And so she would take me back to her school and take me to the high school games. And it was like this little school, normal sized school. and I'm going to the high school games with her. But here I am now. I'm back then now. I'm that dude. You know, like I'm muscular. I got a 6-pack. You pretty much could see it through my shirt because you could see how my arms was ripped up and how my chest was sitting up. You know it had to be a 6-pack with that thing now. Now let me get my bragging in now because I'm old and heavy now. So let me get some bragging in. So I'm going and there's a couple black guys in there and I see how they looking at me and they looking at her. And her, I ain't saying nothing bad I ain't saying nothing bad. But you know the little doll that they used to have, I think they used to call the doll Ann. And it was a white baby doll and it had little red pigtails and, you know, red stringy hair and it had little red dots, little red freckles. That kind of about what she looked like in real life. You know, kind of orangish, reddish hair, you know, little pudgy, little nose, little pudgy, little lips, you know, a little gap in her teeth. And so I remember realizing like the white guys did not like her or didn't want her. And so typically when a white woman isn't wanted by white men, she date black men or Hispanic men. And it's kind of by force. Now this is real talk now. So her parents was kind of like, we'll take anything. We just want our daughter to be married. Like we'll take anything. But my parents was kind of like, you're that guy, pal. Y'all seen the little meme for the white guy. But my dad was, and so my dad told me, he said, son, like, listen. Now that I think about this thing, I realize how better my dad was than me in a lot of ways, because I would not be like this with my son. If my son came, hey boy, listen. Boy, I tell you what, you better not bring that woman in my house, boy. What? Boy, is you crazy? Like, I'd be totally different. But my dad, he was like, well, son, let me ask you this question. He said, okay, so you up there and you dating this young lady. He said, but what if you bring her home and you come home and you go to the Lakeland Mall and you walking through the mall and you see like these very pretty black girls down here. He say, are you gonna feel comfortable with her? And me just being a young man, being rebellious, yeah, daddy, it's not about looks. It is not about looks, it's about love. Didn't even know what love was. I ain't even know what love was. I just was trying to stand my ground, be rebellious. But as I thought about that thing, he said, so son, what I'm trying to say to you is like, he was saying like, what I'm trying to say to you, son, is you up there and you dating her because that's all there is up there to date. But when you come home, it's a lot more options here. So don't take yourself off the market and lock in on something when you picking from a very small pool of women. Like, wait till you back in a real city with more diversity and more people to see if that's really what you want. And so that's what meeting my parents, quote unquote, like, she didn't meet them physically, but that's what it was. That's what happens when you meet the parents. Is sometimes the parents could be like, hey, y'all hold on real quick. I had a packet getting dropped off. So that's what could happen. In meeting the parents. And so I'm sharing this with y'all because I got to be a sacrificial lamb, because we don't like to talk about this stuff and everybody like to be secretive and act like, oh, there's no prejudice, there's no racial lines, and that stuff doesn't exist. We're in a new age, which today, yes, it is a new age, but this stuff's still going on. These conversations still being had today if we honest about it. And so that was two different white women. And then when they met my wife, I can't remember anything, you know. They were just kind of like, We don't know. Like, we don't know. Like, she real pretty. She real nice. Like, but it was just kind of like, is she real? Like, is she arrogant? Like, is she, that's kind of what I was hearing. And then I wasn't the best guy. And my sister was kind of like, well, when I talked to her, it's kind of like she's saying she just using you to get through med school, and then she gonna do her own thing. And so, which I don't. And then I remember my sister telling me, your wife too nice. Like when we went out to the club, every guy that called her name, she looking. Every guy that speak to her, she speaking. And what I realized about my wife is that she really, at that time, she felt like I was higher than her. Because when we had got back together, I was like a organized pimp is what they would call it. And for like the first month that we got back together, and so we went to the club for like NBA player, pro boxer, and I provided the VIP eye candy. I had 8 girls that worked for me, so it kind of made my wife insecure that I had these beautiful women that's right up under me, and I'm like their overseer, and I'm like their promoter, their manager, and we going to the club. So when my wife would get a little attention, I remember looking and seeing it, like this dude was in his car riding through the little line where you like flexing at the club, and he knew me. I played football against him, but he didn't know she was with me. And my wife and my sister was standing right there on the curb, and he was trying to talk to her, and my wife was like, huh? She was my girlfriend, but literally of like 1 week at the time. And she like, what? Huh? Like that right there. And so my sister, she is different. Like my wife come from going to school with all white people. So it's different. Like my sister had a baby at 16. She grew up around black guys. Like my wife grew up around white guys and white girls. And then she went to a hood school in the 10th grade. So she really wasn't built in that. And so where my sister could be like, what going? Shut up! Don't talk to me. Like my sister like that. Like she will fight a dude, she'll cuss a dude out, she will cut a dude, she will kill a dude. My wife, she wasn't like that back then. Like being around me all this time, she done got more. She done found her voice when we, if stuff got to get handled at a soccer game, somebody get out. Now she more bold. But back then she just was kind of searching for herself, and so I told her the same thing that what my sister told me. And I said, look, you can't just be, answering to every call. You can't be, feeling some kind of way. But it came from insecurity. It came from having some years of being, dealing with body image and weight and things like that. So I understood that. And whereas my sister, she just always and forever, whatever, because she wanted to be the only woman in my life, my sisters, because she knew that if she's there and I'm single, she knew I'm gonna get to the bread, whether it's in the streets, whether it's in real life. And so if another woman ain't in the way, then I'm kind of like, I'm the child support, even to this day, for my sister and her kids. Like I give them money every month. And so if a woman in the way, it's kind of like, man, you blocking my blessings, And so that's what the family is gonna be. The family, when you go meet this man's family, they gonna be either, I don't know a term for it, either they gonna set you up for the slaughter, like just tell you what you want to hear, kiki and laugh with you. They know you about to get done dirty, but they're not finna tell you because they on his side. Or they're gonna be guard dogs, and they're gonna be no, she ain't good, she ain't no good, she a gold digger, she this, she that, And so my ex-girlfriend before my wife, my sister came with a mouthful about her. Then my sister came with a mouthful about her. But now with all of her dealings, all of the men was absolute trash. And she ain't listened to a single word. that me or my daddy or my mom or mama or anybody else said, but she had opinion about anybody I dated. And so that's what you finna run into with family. So if you interracial dating, you're gonna run into what I ran into. Yes, your person you with may be cool with you, but somebody in their family is not gonna like the fact that you are of another nationality or of another race. Somebody's not gonna like that, and they're gonna put a bug in his ear. Man, are you sure you want to date that race or date that nationality? Like, they're like this, they're like that. Like, you know, when I introduced different women to my homeboys, I remember one of my homeboys, he picked another young lady, not my wife. He was like, that's the one right there. It was somebody else, but he didn't know them. He just was going based on what he thought looks wise. And he got his own type of taste. And so when I introduced to guys, so the guys, the friends, a lot of time they're gonna be frontliners, to where you may meet the guy friends before you meet the actual blood family. And the friends, they really don't care. The friends is gonna tell you he talk about you all the time. Like, I've never seen him act like this. He's so in love. Like, I don't know what you did to this guy. Like, whatever you did, keep doing it because you got him. How many of y'all have heard that? Guess what? Them guys tell that to every woman come up there. Every woman they meet, they get the same line because it's bros before. That's the code that guys live by. So they put women in the H category, bros before HOs. That ain't what I'm saying. I ain't make it up. But so the guys, they want to set you up to get you to drop your guards. They want you to drop your guards. And guess what? You might be, to this guy you dealing with, you could be a flipper, to where he want to sleep with you, and then he want to kind of back out the way, and then he tell his cousin to holler at you. He want his cousin to sleep with you. He want his homeboy to sleep with you. And if you insecure as a woman, you don't know who you as a woman, you'll be done slept with this guy, then you sleeping with his brother, and you sleeping with his cousin, and you thinking it's real love because you looking for love, and they literally passing you around. And that happened to women, and women don't even be realizing, like, no, you getting passed around. Like, he know. They may be acting like they mad at each other and all that, but this is approved. This has been approved because a man know you could die by that. So you're not finna sleep with somebody this guy know without that guy approval, because that other guy know he literally could lose his life if he talking to you without permission. So sometimes you being introduced to friends because he wanna pass you around or get into a little threesome or something. So as a woman, you got to know yourself. And now that's a little more rare than it is common. But then the next thing is, what you have to realize is, like, you should want to build with this man as much as possible to see that he falls in love, to see if he falls in love with you and treats you amazingly before even meeting the family. Because you want him to have his own mind, and you want him to have his own opinions about you, so that regardless of what his family says, he has feelings and opinions about you that's strong, that he's going to stick with what he knows and feels. But what happens is, with men, we really don't know how to pick a wife. We really don't know what we're looking for. So we subconsciously will lean on the opinions of the people we know, love, and trust. And the people we know, love, and trust could be operating from a place of loneliness, from a place of jealousy, from a place of hate, from a place of spite, from a place of bitterness. They could be operating from anywhere. But if the man is not a trained professional as a clinician, like a counselor or therapist or a life coach, to where he can read a person's disposition and see where they're operating from, he will think this friend or family member is being genuine, and they're actually telling him to not deal with this woman because they want him to remain single and available to them, because they're single and available, or they're in a relationship and they're miserable, and they don't want to lose him because he's their friend. And so they will hate on you as the woman, and if you haven't built enough with him, then you'll lose him. And so instead of being so giddy and so excited that he wants to introduce you to friends and family, put that on hold for like the first at least 3 months. You should not be meeting friends and family. At least the first 3 months, and say, hey, listen, I don't, we're getting to know each other. Like, don't care about how he feels about it. Like, this is your life. You got to protect your peace. You got to protect your name, your brand, your image. Like, you don't want to be going and meeting family before you even know if this is the man for you, because now you done met this family, and then one of his family members that you meet at his family reunion at the cookout works with your next boyfriend. So you and him fall off after 2 months. You meet another man at the mall, and now you out on a date with this man at the mall, and you're the last guy, because you went to meet his family. The last guy cousin is co-workers with your new man, and the cousin tell the new man, oh, that girl you talking to her? He's like, yeah. Oh, she get around. She was at a cookout. I met her at a cookout with my cousin. And you already know how he is. Oh, for real? So now your name messed up. So that's why I say don't be so giddy to go meet somebody's family. Like, put the brakes on that. Honestly, what I recommend is waiting at least 6 months. Talking to this man every single day. Building with him, getting to know him, so that you can feel in your heart, this is a genuine, solid dude. And because see, with men, some men who are accustomed to introducing women to their family, some men will introduce you to his friends or family in the first week, and it means nothing to him. And some men, if they're immature, they get clout from that, from their homeboys, by introducing a different woman every week. It's like, man, you got a lot on, boy. Boy, how you do that, man? How you got so many of them chicks, man? What's going on with you? And that's how I was. Like, every woman I meet, I'm taking around my homeboys to get me some clout. It comes from insecurity. It comes from just being weak and not knowing who you are as a man. And 9 out of 10 men go through that phase in life. So that's what you got to understand. Like, it's so many women, oh, he introduced me to his family in the first 3 weeks, in the first month. Is that a good thing? Nope, that don't mean nothing. That actually means he doesn't have a real respectful relationship with them, and they don't care. Because if he introduced you within the first month, that means that his family could literally meet 52 women a year, because there's 4 or 5 weeks in a month. Like, it's not a whole 5 weeks, but there is, think about it, it's 31 days. And so if he took you to meet them on the 3rd week, you knew him, 2nd week you knew him, whatever, who did he take the week before? Who he took the next week? Because a lot of women don't even require a conversation from a man every day. A lot of women today are okay with text message, and okay with talking to a man for 10 minutes on the phone a day. And so the man got a whole nother 23 hours and 50 minutes in the day. He literally every man easily can have 2-3 women, because women's requirements for communication is so low that a man has more than enough time to juggle women. And then women are, in the sense of, okay, he busy, he tied up. So he sell you that narrative. So you went to meet his family this week, but then next week, when you don't hear from him on that Saturday, or you don't hear from him on that Sunday or that Friday night, that's another woman's day. And you don't even realize it, because you just chalking it up, oh, he's super busy getting to his money. And no, he got enough time for you and a couple other women. And so that's what's happening. And so you have to come to the place to where you cool on meeting his friends and family, his kids, if he got kids, and you just want to focus on him and getting to know him and building with him. And then when you have a real relationship, a real rapport with him, when he introduces you to the family, instead of him being open for opinions and thoughts, he letting them know who you are and what you're about. So he introducing you as, this my girlfriend. When you going and you in line to get your food at the cookout, at the barbecue, family barbecue, he telling his homeboys, man, she's so amazing, man. She the most amazing woman I never dealt with. telling his mom, telling his dad, she's amazing. Like, this is the one. He now, because you've built the relationship with him for 6 whole months, even a year, like it's not crazy and it's not bad if you don't meet a person's parents for a whole year. It's not the end of the world. Now, what I tell people is what I tell women is don't sleep with a man who hasn't introduced you to his family. And somebody was like, hey, did you well, how you saying that? Because then you say you didn't meet your wife dad until 5 years in. That's because my wife dad wasn't in her life like that. He lived in a whole nother state and they weren't that close. So I met her mama eventually, but my wife's parents are very serious. They Jamaican. They didn't bring her over to be doing what she was doing. So we was in sin. She's supposed to be in school to be a doctor. And she up late at night with me. We talking, we kicking it. We, you know what I mean? All out to the movies and we doing this and that. I was a distraction. So that's why she didn't introduce me to her parents that early. And then she wasn't that close with her dad. And then we got married and all of that. We didn't have a real wedding. Her dad didn't give her away. We went to the courthouse. So my wife was kind of like, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. I've never had to ask my dad for permission or to live my life before because I wasn't raised in a home with him. This is what she's saying. And so I asked her, hey, do you want me to call your dad? She was like, no, it's not that serious. Like, we don't have that kind of relationship for you to call him. And then if you do, I'm pretty sure this ain't what he thought would be the way he would give me away. So let's just avoid that. So I said, all right, hey, I'm cool with it. So that's what I mean by family dynamics, is that you can't get so caught up in meeting somebody, mama or daddy, because they might not have a relationship with their parents. They might not have a relationship like that with their family. There's some people who in their family, they are the black sheep, like they the outcast. They everybody look at them like, oh, you think you too good, you think you better than us. And so people don't really want to talk to them or hang out with them because they're trying to break generational curses and trying to go to another level, and they live their life and they off to themselves. And so the family just kind of standoffish. But if you come from this close-knit family to where you finna introduce him to your family, but he ain't even talked about introducing you to his family, that means his family is not as stable as your family. And so where it means a lot to you, it may not mean as much to him. And so that's what you have to understand. And it's a lot that go into it. And what I really want you to take away from this is don't put too much on it. Don't get caught up in your head stressing and worrying about who you haven't met and what's going on and all of this. Now, unless you look in the situation and you say, look, he talked to his friends or his family every single day, and it's been a year plus, and I still have not met anyone. One lady said that, and I said, now that is a red flag, because I think she said 2 years, and she hasn't met anyone. So I told her either he's a super loner, which could be the case, or he has another woman and all of them know about her, and that's where his heart is, that's where his soul tie is, and you just a filler. And so that's why he's not introducing you. So when a man knows his family and talks to them and you don't get introduced for more than a year, that's when something's going on. Now, I said a year is not bad, meaning if you want to hold it for a year. But this man, between the 3-month mark and the 12-month mark, is really when he should be trying to introduce you to his friends or family. Between the 3-month and the 12-month. Some will try it before then, and if it's before the 3-month, then I recommend you as the woman saying, no, let's not do that yet, because we're getting to know each other, we building, and I don't want to, be just another woman you take home to meet your parents. So let's pause right there. I do want to meet them, but let's pause right there for a second. And you do that. So now remember, I'm talking to thousands of people on this video. So you can't take this all the way 100% to heart for you and your situation if you know you are an exception to the rule and there's some caveats and nuances in there. That's where you need to get coaching, and you talk to a coach and you talk about your specific situation. But in general, on average, Between the 3rd month and the 12th month is when a man should be introducing you to the people who mean a lot to him. Other than his children, if he want to protect them until like engagement, like month 12, like month 13 on out for his children, because he want to respect their mother and he don't want them meeting a bunch of women in case y'all don't work out, that's totally different. But his adult friends and his adult family, like mom and dad or whoever, between 3 month and 12 month, if he's serious about you, that's when he's going to be looking to introduce you to them. And understand that meeting the friends and family could very well be the end of y'all's relationship. And if it's not the end of it, it could change the way he treats you based on their feedback about you. So that's why you want to make sure as the woman that you are 100% authentic, so that whatever they say, they're talking about the real you and not your representative, not the fake you, not the you that's operating from fear or anxiety or frustration or stress or worry or insecurity. That when they give him feedback, it's based on who you naturally are. Introvert, extrovert, quiet, talkative, bubbly, whatever you are, they're giving him feedback based on the real you. And if he starts treating you differently a week to two after meeting his loved ones, the people that mean a lot to him, that's when you know he got bad feedback about you, and now he's trying to create some distance, some separation, so he can let you go. And you can realize that and go ahead and just check on out the game and say, okay, I'm gonna let you go because you done flipped it up since we met them. And so I'm obviously, they're telling you not to be with me, or that I'm this and I'm that, and I'm not gonna compete with that. So God bless you. Have a nice life. Hey, so I'll pick up on this, but I got a lot of messages coming in right now. People trying to reach me, so I got to get going. God bless you. We'll talk soon.